Hi, my name is Madeline Ortega. My candidate number is 7089. My center number is UX416, and this is my AICE Media Studies Critical Reflection. I selected a dog genre for my media portfolio project. Question 1 Part A asks, how does your media product use or challenge conventions? Cover references. On the left side, my magazine cover can be seen, and on the right side, my 3 references can be seen, although the one in the middle was my main reference. Main image. My main image features my dog outside in nature in a happy mood and body language. This image was taken at an eye level angle because I saw through my research of dog magazines that it was used very often, which is why I decided to use it as well and be conventional. I decided to take this photo outside in nature because I saw that in dog magazines, like the references shown here, that the dog in the last cover reference is in nature, and the one in the main reference, the secondary images, the dogs can be seen out in nature. I did this because it conveys more meaning such as happiness and joy by seeing the dog happy, and it goes well with the message of my story, which indicates a softer and positive tone. Masthead. The name of my magazine is called Parenting Pause. The meaning of my masthead is supposed to be aimed at people who own dogs and see themselves as parents of their dogs. I did this because my story also touches on how dogs can be seen as family to their owners. I also did this because if my magazine were to be sold, it would also touch on other things like training tips and how to discipline dogs, which is what is typically featured in actual dog magazines. I used a pink color as the masthead, which is unconventional because in dog magazines, they are usually either black or blue, but I decided to use pink because my target audience is women and they would represent feminism, also because pink gives a feeling of positivity and calmness, which summarizes the overall tone of my magazine. I used a medium font because I see that in dog magazines, they don't typically use large fonts or fonts that are way too small, so I decided to use a font that is right in the middle of the 2 conventional fonts used. I placed it at the very top of my cover because it is very conventional to how dog magazines place their masthead. Lead article. My lead article is how dogs help humans with their mental health. I believe this lead article was cover worthy because it is a very conventional topic often heard of in dog magazines. I used a plain and modern font because in dog magazines, their lead article tends to be a very normal and non-exaggerated kind of font. The text size was medium because in dog magazines, they do not use an overly large font for their lead article. I positioned my lead article above my dog's head, almost going past it because in dog magazines, they tend to use this, usually covering the dog's ear or body. To distinguish my lead article from the rest of the cover lines, I used the color pink, a different font, and a larger text size. Cover lines. My cover lines all contribute to the meaning of my lead article. I use a unique font because in dog magazines, they tend to use different and unique fonts such as cursive. However, I did not use cursive because it would be too large and could cover my dog's face, which is not very conventional. It is only conventional to cover the dog's body, so that's what I did. However, I did challenge conventions with the text size because my cover lines are all the same size, but in dog magazines, they have different sizes for their cover lines. I used the color white, which is very conventional in dog magazines. I placed the cover lines on the left side of the page, which is very conventional. However, in dog magazines, they tend to use the left and right side for their cover lines. So I was a bit unconventional there because on the right side, I needed space for a flash puff. I included 3 cover lines because in dog magazines, they usually have around 3 to 5 cover lines, so I decided to go with 3 so that it would not look too crowded. Dateline and barcode. My dateline was placed below the masthead because this is where it is typically found in dog magazines. I decided to go with spring 2026 because in dog magazines, their dateline is based off the season and year they are currently in. I used a white and medium font, which is very unconventional because in dog magazines, they're usually very small, but in my cover, I was not able to make it very small because it would not be visible or readable due to the trees in the background. For the barcode, I placed it at the bottom right because since the cover lines were on the left side, I didn't have enough space to place it there. However, in dog magazines, they are usually placed on the left side, so I was very unconventional there. Color and aesthetic. On my cover, I used white, brown, dark pink, green, and light pink because in dog magazines, they use a variety of vibrant colors to stand out, which is why I decided to do it as well. I specifically wanted the color pink to stand out because it will be able to attract my target audience, which is women, and also because my dog's harness is pink, so it would look visually pleasing. Flash puff. I decided to use a flash puff because in all the references that I had, they all had a flash puff, so I wanted to be conventional. The flash puff contributes to what my story also touches on. Table of contents. On the left side is my table of contents, and on the right side is my reference. As seen, there is a distinct difference between the colors on my table of contents because I utilize the color pink a lot, which is unconventional. And on my reference, they mostly use green, blue, and black. I decided to use pink because my target audience is women, and on the reference there are no colors that indicate that it is aimed at women. So I decided to make my table of contents easily noticeable that it is for women. Design and structure. I used 2 pages, however, in my reference they had 4 pages. My stories relate to the lives of dogs, such as their well-being and lifestyle. I made my cover stories relate to the benefits that dogs have on humans, and I also tried to feature the lives of other dogs and add some entertainment for my stories. Also, all of my stories have descriptions so that the audience can know what they are going to read. I included 2 medium images and 1 smaller images. Fonts and text. For the fonts and text, I used 3 different fonts, different sizes, and 3 different colors. For the fonts and text, I made sure that the titles were in a bigger font than the description or the story name so that it is easy to identify where something new starts. The colors that I used were hot pink, light pink, black, but the images included green, brown, light pink, and hot pink. I included 80 pages because through my research of dog magazines, they typically use around 70 to 80 pages. Also, I added an on the cover section because in dog magazines, like the ones shown here, they are usually always shown. And also I decided to use an advertisement page because in dog magazines, they never have a section on the table of contents that shows what those advertisements will be about. Double page spread. For my double page spread, I used 4 pages because in dog magazines, they're usually also 4 pages, so I decided to be conventional with that. And also because my story was very long and my double page spread can be seen above and my reference can be seen below. My reference inspired me to use a full page for just an image. Story explanation. My story was called How Dogs Help Humans with Their Mental Health. My story is about the different ways a dog can improve the life of a human and how dogs provide support and companionship to humans during hard times. I believe my story would be found in dog magazines because people who love dogs and read dog magazines would want to learn how a dog truly impacts the life of their owner. It supports many topics included in dog magazines, such as human-dog relationship stories. It also has an emotional appeal like many dog magazines do. The language used in the story is positive and it has a friendly tone. The length is 4 pages long. Design and structure. I used 2 double page spreads. I continue to use a pink and feminine theme. I used 6 different fonts. I used 2 large images and 1 medium image. For the photos, I used 3 photos, eye level angles. My photos are of my dog in nature with their tongue out and in a happy mood. I created visual hierarchy by including colors like pink, green, and blue. The sun also makes the image brighter, which can help grab attention. Also, the size of the larger images allows it to stand out more than the other design elements in my magazine. For the photo captions, I used 3. The captions in my magazine briefly explain what my dog is doing, such as the position and where my dog is facing. They relate to my photos in the story because they help the audience identify what my dog is doing and where. For the folio, I placed the folios on the bottom left and right of both double page spreads. It has relevance to the table of contents because on my table of contents, I included page 50 as the lead article page, and my double page spread also started on page 50. Misc. I included a quote because it adds more meaning to the entire message of the story and because I have seen many quotes used in dog magazines. These are some examples that I found in dog magazines. Headline and subheading. In my double page spread, my headline stretches across the gutter, which is unconventional because in dog magazines, they are typically only on 1 page, usually in the bottom. But I decided to use it because it makes it look more dynamic and cohesive. Also, for the subheading, I used a quote because it contributes to the meaning of the story. Copy/story. I organized my story into sections and columns because in dog magazines, this is how they are organized. The drop capital can be seen on the first double page spread starting the story. Also, I used a pull quote which can also be identified as my subheading because I saw that most dog magazines use it as well. And my byline can be seen below my headline and above my story. Question 1 Part B asks, how does your product represent social groups or issues? The social groups that are found in dog magazines are dog owners, vets or professionals, trainers or breeders. The social issues in dog magazines are relationships between humans and dogs, health and wellness trends, adoption and breeding, and cloning services. Social groups or issues in dog magazines are represented in a way that shows visual bias against breeds of dogs such as pit bulls or dogs with black fur color. This gives a misrepresentation or misunderstanding about these dogs to the public, often seen as mean or aggressive dogs. Also, they are represented differently than other dog breeds that have white fur, that are smaller, or are seen as cuter. The black fur dogs are rarely shown, and if they are not seen in cute accessories or cute positions. However, other dogs can be seen in accessories like bows or in cuter facial expressions. This is an example of visual bias represented in dog magazines. As shown below, only 3 images of dogs with black fur out of the 29 images. Also, the black dogs can be seen in no cute accessories compared to the other dogs shown. In these images, the promotion of cloning services and genetic preservation can be seen with high prices that many may not be able to afford. In dog magazines, they tend to promote genetic preservation, breeding, and cloning services which are very pricey, so it is represented in a way that shows economic inequality because only people with higher levels of income can afford those services, which can create a social stigma for those who can't afford it. I represented these social issues or groups in an unconventional way by including the images of my dog, which is an uncommon breed, a Schnauzer mix, that would not typically be shown in dog magazines at all. Since my dog also had darker fur color than most of the dogs represented in dog magazines, I was able to diversify what is shown in actual dog magazines. Also, my dog is wearing an accessory, since in dog magazines, dogs with darker fur color are not seen in cute or colorful accessories, but instead they are just represented in a boring and plain way. However, when it came to the tone of my magazine, I did follow this in a conventional way because in dog magazines, their tone is typically soft and positive and does not touch on any serious or heavy topics, which is what I also did. My magazine's tone is positive and represents a heartwarming and soft topic. Also, my coverline stories are lighthearted and positive like most dog magazines are.